Warning, this video will contain spoilers for the entire Star Wars saga.
The attempt on my life has left me scarred and deformed. But I assure you, my resolve has never been stronger.
Who was Rey's grandmother? When was her father born? And what woman was crazy enough to have intimate relations with the old, disfigured Sith Emperor? Are the Sith even allowed to marry, unlike the Jedi? Today we are looking at everything we know about Rey's heritage and trying to put the pieces together in this very messy timeline by uncovering everything we know about Palpatine's love life.
Good.
One of the biggest secrets revealed in The Rise of Skywalker was Rey's true lineage. However, it wasn't just the fact that Rey had Palpatine's blood in her veins that was shocking, but more the thought that Palpatine had a love life of any kind. We know that the Jedi aren't allowed to marry, as this is one of the driving conflicts behind Attack of the Clones and especially Revenge of the Sith. The Jedi Order actually forbade love because they believed that it led to passion and attachment. But the Sith valued passion, unlike the Jedi, and defended any attachment that you had the power to keep. So it would seem that because of this, the Sith would have no problem with romantic relationships, as both passion and attachments were acceptable to them. However, while the Jedi see love as a path to the dark side, the Sith also saw love as a path to the light, identifying that love can lead to compassion and weakness. So while the Jedi thought that it led to passion, the Sith thought it led to compassion. Because the Jedi believed that it led to the dark and the Sith believed that it led to the light, neither group were traditionally permitted to form romantic attachments. So if this is the case, then how did Palpatine father a child? Well, while romantic attachments are largely discouraged by the Sith, it would appear that relationships of the purely physical nature were not. In Legends, actually, Palpatine had a number of named female companions as members of his entourage. In Legends, it was actually unknown how many romantic or physical relationships Palpatine really had during his lifetime, and to what extent. Ever since his youth, Sidious was primarily and solely focused on the acquisition of power, and he only wore the identity of Palpatine as a mask in order to identify his career and reach a position of power within the Republic. As a young man and ambassador for Naboo, he evidently found it useful to make it appear that he was in an amorous mood whenever it suited him, and he actually had a reputation for being a bit of a ladies' man.
Do it for me, milady, please.
However, despite his reputation, his only true focus was on the takeover of the Republic. As we see in the prequels, Palpatine used charm and charisma as means to this end, appearing in his own words as always eager to make friends. And he was not above using flirtation and romance to further his reputation and gain political momentum. As Galactic Emperor, Palpatine surrounded himself with concubines at the Imperial Court, and at least one of them, Rogata Ismarin, claimed to have been at the very least physically involved with him. Director of Imperial Intelligence Isan Isard also made the same claim, as she told Karen Horde that she had loved the Emperor, but mostly for his power. This was actually a pretty common thread, as most of those who claimed intimacy with the Emperor in Legends did so out of a desire to gain status or claim a bit of the Emperor's power for themselves, trying to become power brokers of sort. An interesting fact, in Legends, Palpatine was, at the very least, prepared to marry, as he had actually set in place specific Imperial laws for the event of the Emperor's wedding. We know, for example, that in true Sith fashion, under this law it was specified that the bride would forfeit her human or sapient rights and would officially be recognized by Imperial law as the groom's legal property. In Legends also, Mara Jade, the eventual wife of Luke Skywalker, was originally one of the Emperor's hands, a personal assassin who posed as a consort for the Emperor as to not arouse suspicion. Now that I say that out loud, I understand why Mara Jade was left out of the new canon. But anyway, moving on. So that's Legends, but we want to know about Palpatine's romantic life in canon. I only even bring up Legends in this video because I think it gives us a precedent for Palpatine's relational life, and it may help inform our understanding of canon. So what do we know from canon? Well, thanks to Kylo Ren, we know that Palpatine fathered at least one child, and we know that this was Rey's father since he says, "My mother was the daughter of Vader. Your father, son of Palpatine." So it is her father that is the son of Palpatine, and we see both of her parents in The Rise of Skywalker as they leave Rey behind on Jakku. Now, the Visual Dictionary says that Rey was born 19 years before the Starkiller incident and abandoned on Jakku in 13 BSI. But I refuse, my friends. So I did a little converting to relate these dates to something a little more familiar and found that the Battle of Yavin occurred in 34 BSI, meaning that Rey was born in 15 ABY, or 15 years after the Battle of Yavin, and abandoned in 21 ABY at the age of 6. When she's abandoned, we see her father, who is played by Billy Howell, an actor who's currently 30 years old. However, Hollywood is always trying to tell us that characters on screen are actually younger than the actors who play them, like, for example, how Daisy Ridley was 23 years old when The Force Awakens released, but Rey is supposed to be a 19-year-old in the films. Considering that and allowing for a decent range of error, we can guess that by the time Rey is 6, her father is somewhere between 26 and 30, placing his birth between 9 BBY and 5 BBY. For reference, that is between 11 years after Revenge of the Sith at the oldest, or around the same time as the Kessel Run, or 5 years before Rogue One and A New Hope at the youngest, or the same year that Rebels Season 1 began. This places his birth and conception cleanly in the era of the Empire, years after the fall of the Republic and the Jedi, and years before any organized and unified rebellion. This would place Rey's father between the ages of 9 and 13 by the time his father died on Endor. This means not only that Rey's father was born while Palpatine was Emperor, but it also means that some Imperial harpy was willing to
Do it.
dance with this wrinkly psycho's lightning rod, if you know what I mean. Oh man, this video is putting images in my head I never wanted to visualize. Alright, so who was willing to bang the old Emperor and become a possible candidate for Rey's grandmother? Well, we know that she has to be human, since Rey's father is human, and so that already eliminates several members of his entourage in Revenge of the Sith. We also know that Billy Howell has red hair, just like Palpatine himself is depicted as having red hair in his youth. While being redhead does not require both parents to have red hair themselves, it does require both parents to carry the gene. Unfortunately, we don't actually see many redheads in Palpatine's company. In fact, we don't see really many women in Palpatine's company, and I don't think it's this one since she appears to be an Achani, which would likely pass down extremely pale skin and white hair. If we're willing to look at Legends, however, I do think there are a few viable candidates. First, we have Roganda Ismarin, a former Jedi from Alderaan who posed as one of Palpatine's concubines for many years with the attempt to slay him. However, she was eventually turned by his power, becoming a loyal servant of the Emperor and one of his many hands, like Mara Jade. And then there is Asan Isard, a loyal Imperial and the director of Imperial intelligence. Isard truly loved the Emperor, as is said in the X-Wing novel Isard's Revenge. You do not fall in love with someone like the Emperor because you like the way he laughs or the cute dimples he has. You fall in love with him because you feel a kinship to him. You wanted what he wanted, which was power. And that lust for power won't go away. Just as the way you brought us here to keep us here reflects your need for control. You have a goal, and everything else will be subordinate to it. Isard loved the Emperor, continuing to serve him in his memory for years after Endor. Even though her hair is officially black and white, we can actually see tinges of red in it as it is depicted in the New Essential Guide to Characters, the Essential Guide to Warfare, X-Wing Rogue Squadron 34, Mandatory Retirement Part 3, and the X-Wing Miniature and Galaxies Trading card games. So does that settle it? Is Isard's counterpart Palpatine's playmate? Well, sadly, it's not that simple. Not only is her role as Director of Imperial Intelligence largely filled by Colonel Yularen in canon, but we also see that Rey's father is evidently raised to be nothing like Palpatine. Even though he doesn't get much screen time, Rey's father clearly has nothing in common with the former Emperor. And this would seem to rule out Asard or someone like her, as they would have likely raised their son in the image of the Emperor. This seems to be more in line with Roganda Ismarin, a former Jedi, who, at least at one point, held to the light. In fact, Ismarin even had a son in Legends, who, at least she claimed, was the son of the Emperor. We know that much of the new canon draws inspiration from Legends, and this son of Ismarin may possibly be the Legends' inspiration for Rey's father. However, like Asard, Ismarin also continued on the path of the dark side after the Emperor's death. So this isn't exactly a perfect fit either, but I think it's closer to what we're looking for and what we'd expect to see in canon. A woman brought unwillingly into Palpatine's service, swayed for a time by his power, but who is eventually freed from his hold after his death and raises her son to be a better man. We sadly may never get a true identity for Palpatine's mistress, but you know who does have red hair? Mara Jade. That's right, Mara Jade, who was the Emperor's hand and posed as one of the Emperor's concubines. That's it. We solved it. We were right all those years ago. That actually was Mara Jade's tomb that Luke was standing in front of on Ahch-To. Mara Jade was pregnant with the Emperor's child when she met Luke, and the reason why Rey calls herself Rey Skywalker is because her father was the stepson of Luke Skywalker. That's it. We solved it. We fixed the sequel trilogy. I'm done. Bye. I'm just kidding.
You lied to us. What a surprise.
Unfortunately, as cool as that would be and as many plot threads as that would tie up, it would open up just as many new ones, but you never know. There's just absolutely no evidence for it. I mean, you never know. Let me know. Do you guys think that's actually a possibility? Could Mara Jade actually be the mother of Rey's father, the stepson of Luke Skywalker? You can let me know all of that down in the comments below. We sadly may never get a true identity for Palpatine's mistress, but I actually wouldn't be surprised if this was revealed in future material. The era between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope is the most popular era for Star Wars books, and this is just the type of detail I would expect them to include, or at least hint at. But anyway, that's everything I can find on the subject, but I will be keeping you guys in the loop as we learn more. Let me know if there was something I missed. Are there other potential ladies in Palpatine's love life? Do you think it's one of these characters from Legends brought into canon, or will they create some new character to be Rey's grandmother? Let me know what you think in the comments. I always want to hear what you, my friends, have to say about our favorite galaxy far, far away. The world of Star Wars is so much bigger than any one film or story can contain. It's an entire world that we can exist in together. Our love for Star Wars surrounds us and it binds us, and I am here to share that love with you. This has been Big Z with Lore Star, and as always, may the lore be with you. Always.